Yeah, cool.
Not bad.
Yeah. How's this? My name is Travis Bloomfield. I am the President and CEO of Provisio Partners. Yeah, I had been in IT consulting and management consulting for the last, let's just say, since 2006 is when I got started after founding some other companies prior to that. And it was about 2013 where I started to look around at different technology stacks that I felt would be best to fit for nonprofits and public sector organizations. And as such, left my role as a chief operating officer to go start my first Salesforce practice. And started Salesforce practice in a historical Oracle Platinum partner that we're looking to diversify. And had some early success there, and ultimately ended up buying that practice and starting another firm that was the first solely dedicated Salesforce consultancy. And so I had a wonderful partner, started that firm, and what I quickly realized that it wasn't enough just to have expertise in the technical end or the platform itself in Salesforce, and it was, quite frankly, a disservice to our customers. So I use the analogy all the time, and that is when we were in middle school, I don't think any of us had aspirations to be mediocre at a lot of things. Instead, we wanted to be great at something. And for me and my partner, Erica Cox, we really looked around and looked at opportunities to best leverage Salesforce as a platform, and we felt strongly about health and human services. And I think at that time, I wish I could say there was a big business plan and market study and total addressable market and all those things to make that decision, but it was quite simply, who are we willing to get up for every single morning and do our best for those organizations and individuals and constituents. And that's how Provisio was born when we started November 1st of 2017. Just that simple. Yeah, there were some very disappointing instances early on. We started doing some work in intellectual and developmental disabilities, and having folks that were close to me in my life with intellectual and developmental disabilities, it was an easy one to get excited about trying to solve those challenges. And I was brought in to do really an assessment and recommendation for an organization that provides oversight services for intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the system that they were using was a case management system, but that case management system was in, a hot closet, none of the data protected, and it was actually used for law enforcement case management. And I quickly started to look at the needs of their caseworkers and the needs of the organization. And I felt strongly that this is an area that's underserved. This is an area where technology can really have an impact, not just on the organization, but those that they serve. And so from that point forward, we started looking at other opportunities, and it was quickly evident, not only here in Chicago, but California and Texas and New York and other large metropolitan areas, that suddenly it was looking at, oh my goodness, housing and shelter is so underserved, those needing housing and shelter, or immigrant and refugee resettlement, or early childhood, aging, workforce development, reentry programs. And so we started looking at all these different use cases and realized that there were few options. There's lots of fine point solutions, but none of which scale from the needs for data and adoption within an organization that are large and complex. I don't think I really started putting all the pieces together until about January of 2018, our first aha moment, when we started delivering for an elderly homeless shelter in Oakland, California. And really seeing, for lack of a better term, how the sausage is made in an organization when you're on site for a week doing discovery and understanding what that really means. And then we took those lessons back here and started working with a wonderful organization that we're still close to today called the Chinese American Service League on the south side of Chicago, who have been tremendously successful, and still to this day have wonderful relationships with their leadership that were behind the type of change that they were looking to make in their community. And so those were two very big aha moments for us, and starting to understand, I would say, the size and scale of the challenges that these organizations face. There's so many. Today, I will tell you, I think we're somewhere between 325 and 350 customers that we've served over the last nearly 8 years. But I also, as recent as the work that we're doing today with organizations such as Urban Alchemy that are providing incredible services in the toughest spots in America for those that are unhoused and sheltered. But the real story there is them working with those that are exiting incarceration and reentry programs and providing real work and self-worth, and some of the most professional individuals that I have come across in my entire career. And it is such a pleasure to watch that organization flourish and blossom, and to see the impact that they're having while using Provisio solutions to do better in their communities, which is all we've ever wanted. I think that we've always embodied those that really do care about mission. Being former military, I'm mission oriented. I am servant leadership. But when I think about attitude and effort and doing what's best by the client, those three things have to be present. We're less concerned about perhaps all the educational requirements that might need to be there or where somebody's worked in their past, but I think that we've been incredibly fortunate to have a very solid foundation of individuals here at the firm. And if I'm being honest, a lot of those solid individuals are family and friends and colleagues that have collectively come together, that have been in circles for 20, 30 plus years, which makes it even sweeter to be doing such great work across the United States. When I think about some of the best compliments we get are when our people know as much or more about that particular business than the organizations we're serving. I also am incredibly proud when our teammates just blend in the organization. Others outside the organization don't know if they're a Provisio teammate or one of our clients. And I think that is the ultimate compliment when you have that level of or depth of expertise that you just naturally blend in with those organizations. Yeah, I would say there's lots of strategic planning and roadmaps and all those great things. I think in today's day and age, when we talk about whether it's digital transformation or any other buzzword du jour, I think that the first thing that they need to understand is to meet that organization where they're at today. And whether you're an external factor in that organization or an internal piece of that organization, you have to understand where the organization stands today. It's why we've had so much investment in advisory and management consulting services, so that we can better leverage the technology stack to meet organizations where they're at. The other part that I would look at, especially in today's day and age, is yes, there's modernization of platforms and technologies, but above all is getting a handle on, I would say, the data that they currently have, and having a real plan around the data that leads to things such as AI readiness. It's silly to talk about AI and what opportunities there are for an organization if they first don't understand what data they are working with, or maybe perhaps more importantly, what data they're missing to best leverage AI where there may be some high friction areas that would be very impactful for the organization. And I think sometimes when we start looking at modernization that we miss tackling some of the most high friction areas first before we look at enterprise scale. When I think about what the future looks like, it has everything to do, when I think about it, is what does service delivery in communities look like in the future? If Travis were looking for services, how would he do that? And when I look at it, I firmly believe that agentic AI is going to be a central point to every nonprofit and public sector organization that is providing services in their community. And when I think about resource allocation, when I think about looking at how to best serve organizations and individuals, I think that Provisio has an obligation. It is our moonshot, right? Our moonshot is revolutionizing how services are delivered across communities, and agentic AI is part of that. And that has to do with everything from when the first time I'm reaching out to inquire about services, to ensure that I'm actually eligible for services, any other individuals in my household that may be eligible for services, and then doing that coordination to get Travis ultimately and his loved ones to get services. And I think that an agentic approach is going to be necessary in the future. Boy, we thought we were way ahead of the curve when we started looking at like an eligibility engine, which was in large part looking at grants manually and ensuring that as an individual looking for services, I would actually be qualified for those services. It's not fair if I was unqualified for those services or eligible for them, that I would receive them. And chances are that that organization would not get paid for the services that they were providing to me. And it happens frequently. We have a digital front door that is the front door to organizations and the services that they provide. But imagine having an agent that is now going to look across all grants and service opportunities for somebody like Travis, and allows them to not only look at what I would be eligible for and get me into those programs and do all the coordination that's difficult to do, but most importantly, it's going to allow the social workers that are there to interact with Travis, because I haven't met a social worker yet in all my years that is really excited because they want to have their nose in the technology versus working on the human side to work through my challenges as somebody receiving services. So that's what it's going to provide. But I think as we look at it, we think about social determinants of health and starting to look at outcomes. And I know impact, outcomes, these are terms that are used widely. I don't know that it's actually happening all the time. And I think by looking at standards such as the social determinants of health, that it is going to allow organizations that are using our particular products and technologies in conjunction with Salesforce to have to better deliver on their mission. I see ourselves growing deeper and deeper into data and data readiness. I would say working through big data will be a very important part to our practice, but I think equally as important is the front end of our work, which is ensuring that the organizations that the technical approach is aligning to what the mission is of the organization to allow them to meet their goals, and whether that is not necessarily all the strategic planning, but certainly from data readiness and data strategy, looking at AI, implementing. But I think that our approach is tackling some of the most friction areas or the largest friction areas within an organization in an approach that can be phased so that we're delivering value more quickly for our customers. And I think that is what's happening in the future.
All right, well, time to take off your CEO hat for a second. Okay. So
Sure.
you're just Travis now. Okay?
Sure.
All right, we're gonna play a game of this or that.
Okay.
Cups or socks?
Socks.
Beach vacation or sightseeing vacation?
Sightseeing.
And where at?
I love Eastern Europe. I think that, I love whether it's in the UK, Eastern Europe, those areas really excite me. Although I will say I'm going on the biggest trip of my life here shortly to Nepal in Kathmandu and Everest. So I view that as not only climbing, but sightseeing as well. I love to be outdoors and taking in the culture experience of everything around me.
City or country?
If I had to pick, I'd say country. I was born in Central Illinois. My family still farms down there, and it just feels like home. Although I'll say that coming into the office today and walking across the river and being in the city is a wonderful feeling. And I think that I spend most of my professional life inside of cities, large cities, where we all have challenges. Although I'll say that over the last 10 years, we've seen some of these historic challenges that we see in large metropolitan areas. They're in small metropolitan areas, and they're out in our rural communities as well, and the challenges are very much the same.
Springsteen or Petty?
Petty.
New or vintage?
Vintage. The nostalgic part is all the hard lessons working on the farm. My parents were divorced when I was when I was 5, and I got to spend summers and vacations down on the farm and learning what hard work and chores look like, and it was really wonderful. And I spent all my school years in the south suburbs of Chicago, and so I got to experience the city and the suburbs, and I would say lots of different cultures in the south suburbs that was very enriching. And I would say that as I look, at a scenario where I was back and forth between the country and being in a more urban area, I was so fortunate to be able to have and do that. And I would say that the other part is that the opportunities that have been afforded to me around so many wonderful people in both an urban environment and a rural environment is such that I think it's really shaped my entire life. And having support and really appreciating both a rural environment and a more urban environment is something that's helped me throughout my entire life to have connection and empathy and really view and value all walks of life and folks from different areas. I love spending time with my family. That's probably a pretty canned answer. I would hate to have somebody say that they don't enjoy spending time with their family, but I really enjoy spending time with my family. My wife and I golf. I love travel. Little known fact is that I grew up going to dirt car races with my dad, sprint car racing. So I absolutely love going dirt track racing and watching sprint cars. And it's something that I've carried on with my family and really enjoy doing that. Probably most folks wouldn't know that. I would say certainly World War II. My grandpa was in the Army, 9th Armored Division, Battle of the Bulge, at the Remagen. The courage of what it took from those generations during that time. And then I think World War II was one thing, but to come back to America when everybody did everything they could, when everybody was gone, and to come back and see so much progress, it's been incredible. And so my grandpa used to read to me at night. Time magazine used to have these books on World War II, and I still have them today. So I've always been a big World War II, that era. I'm a big military buff. I was briefly stationed in Biloxi, Mississippi, which was a real change for me, but met so many great people that were all in the same scenario that I was. And then I was stationed at Warner Robins, Georgia, which is in the middle of Georgia. It's called Robins Air Force Base, and really loved what I did, took a lot of pride in being an air traffic controller, and got to do some really cool things that I would have never had the opportunity to do had I not been in that place at that time. The most pivotal job that I ever had was probably, there was a company in Chicago by the name of Bell & Howell in the north side in Lincolnwood. And Bell & Howell had traditionally had imaging devices, but they also manufactured scanners and had software for the retrieval of that, and then they used other storage like RAID storage and other things like that. And so they had a division called DoD Systems that was only hiring prior military people to sell back into whatever branch it was, and I was Air Force and Air National Guard. And they hired me after I had a short stint selling insurance in those basics, which was an incredible experience, learning the basics of sales and prospecting and relationships and understanding. And so I was way over my skis technically at that time, but it was my first introduction into really software, hardware, storage, all of those types of things, and was just an incredible experience and one that I think really helped to shape my future. I'm big on attitude and effort, and I think that attitude is one of the things that you can control, and I think effort is the other thing that you can control. And I find myself worrying about so many things during the course of a day, which I would imagine more than half of them I don't have any control over. But the one thing I do have control over is my attitude and the effort. And if those things, if I'm functioning well there, typically everything works out pretty good. What I'm most excited about is I think the human connection, that I think that will help to improve, because I think that there's been lots of advances, but really they're modernization, right? You're moving from one platform to the other. There's perhaps it's reduction in cost, perhaps it's better stability, there's support, things like that. But I actually think that AI does have the opportunity to make better connections between humans, and I'm a big believer in human connection and physical connection, and I think that there's lots of things that can be done virtual. I think that as humans, we have the opportunity to continue to evolve and leverage technology, but I think that what's coming and what is actually here from an AI perspective is greater than what we saw from modernization in 98, 99 in the Y2K phenomenon, which was just replatforming. And this is something much different, and I'm really excited about what's to come, because I see that it will have an equitable impact across all segments of society.
Travis, you're free. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.